What's going on? Checking back in from this morning. Where I left off, I called code enforcement and no one could give me the answer. So I called code enforcement again throughout the day. I'm at work working my normal work day, so I had to keep sliding off to the back to make these phone calls. So I'm ringing. No one's able to give me any answers. I'm hearing like it might be a 2 unit and somebody like they don't know what's going on. So I'm frustrated, so frustrated to the point I don't eat. I just call people during my lunch break. So I'm making the calls I gotta make, and then I'm looking online because they got an online search, and something popped up, and then I was like, okay, it wasn't a violation, it was a citation, it was a DMP, and the property. Basically, that means nobody lives in the property, so it got written up for that, and it wasn't registered properly with the city, so they wrote that up. So I'm like, okay, I know I searched before, but this didn't pop up. So on that, it gives you a list of numbers that you should call for like depending on what district your house is in. So they call it the Eastern District. So I call them and to figure out what's going on. I'm like, okay, this house is DMP. They're like, who owns the house? I'm like, me, I guess. I got a contract on it, so me. So da da da. Like, what's your name? What's your phone number? Da 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 da. And then after we got off the phone, I'm like, the whole time I think she put me as the contact person for the house in case something goes wrong. So I'm like, okay, I might, I don't know if I'm gonna get in trouble for that. But she's telling me all the stuff, you know what I'm saying? She's like, oh yeah, it's a 2 unit. You got the DMP, so all you had to do is get a use of occupancy permit, which basically means it's safe for somebody to live there. And she said, so you're just going to pull the permits when you get to work, and the fine is like $900. So you just got to pay the $900 plus the fine, $900 plus pulling the permits. So I'm like, permits means you got to go down to the city. The city has to inspect the work that you did, which makes sense because they want to make sure like this house was abandoned and make sure it's in a safe position for somebody to live. So I'm like, okay, $900, so that's an extra $1,000 right out the bat, and then they expect to spend. But I'm happy like it's a 2 unit. But what she's saying to me doesn't really gel because the mentor, she had told me, and the contractor, because we went to go check out the house together. She was like, basically, if a house sits vacant for a year, it's the ability to lose its 2 unit designation. And this property in particular only really makes sense as a 2 unit. By 2 unit, I mean it has two rental units in the one house. And these 2 units are probably gonna give me like 850, $900 a month. So that's like what, like $1,700 to $1,800 a month. But as a 1 unit, is the best it's gonna give me is like 1,300. So what is that? That's like a $500 difference. That's a big difference. Worst case scenario, I'm getting 12. Worst case scenario, in the other one, I'm getting like 15. So even still, worst case scenario, that's a $300 a month difference. That's a big difference in the cash flows. So I'm like, okay, what is going on here? I have to be completely sure, and she didn't sound like she was completely sure. In the mentor, she's a veteran real estate investor, and she just works there, so I don't think she really knows all the ins and outs type thing. So I'm like, okay, I think I need to delve deeper. So I call an inspector for the city, like that. I got his phone number. So I call her, and she looks it up for me. She's like, you need to talk to the permits department. So I'm like, okay, that'll probably be a better note. Mind you, I start going to 8:30. Around lunch, I take my lunch at 12. So it's not until like 2 o'clock that I'm getting like some traction. But I'm happy, it was a good sign because my boss, he left early randomly for the day. So I was able to really hammer in some calls and get this work in. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm good doing my job, but get this work in. You know what I'm saying? So I'm hammering away, calling. Eventually get to the permits department. And mind you, this is like almost 4 o'clock. So in Baltimore City, all the buildings and stuff close like around 4:30, most of them for the codes and housing stuff. So it's crunch time. So I'm calling them, and they're like, "Oh yeah." I'm talking to the person. She's like, "I can refer you over to the zoning board." But yeah, I'm looking right here. You should have no problem. Just when you get the permits pulled, just let them know we changed the system to you have to do it online now. I'm like, if you were able to answer me my question, you would have never said anything about zoning. But I'm like, she said that for a reason. That pinged off in my head. So she's like, yeah, but you should be able, as soon as you just get the use of occupancy permit, you should be good. And I'm like, okay, but you still transfer me over to zoning? She's like, oh yeah, sure, that's no problem, So she transferred me over to zoning, and he's like, hey, what's going on, bruh? I'm like, hey, what's going on? got this property at this address. Can you tell me if it's illegal too? And he's like, nope. Property's been vacant for 2 years. And the lot size is only 1,900 and some change. And to get a 2 unit designation, you would have to have at least 2,200 unless it's grandfathered in, which wouldn't have been a problem if they kept the rental registration up and all that, and they kept somebody in there for these 2 years. So now it's legally a 1 unit, and the process of turning into a two is a very difficult, takes months and months and months, something I can't really do. And so he tells me that, and I'm like, damn, I'm fucked up because I'm thinking the whole day, I'm thinking, because it's 4:15, like they're about to close, so it's like I almost didn't even get this information. I was gonna go ahead and sign the contracts and over the EMD and all that good stuff, and it turns out like I would have been shooting myself in the foot. I was frustrated because man, I knew I was getting that house today. I knew I was getting a house today, but it didn't work out. But I'll say this, that like the coaching or whatever, it was expensive, blah, blah, blah. But if it wasn't for her, I would have made that mistake buying the house right there. And who knows how long I would have been underneath of that. I would never even have known about the 1 year program where it goes away after a year. You lose your 2 unit designation and how hard it is to get it back. So I'd have been losing money for however long I had the loan till I was able to unload it, which had been probably for some years. So I had a bad asset on my books for years and years. And who knows if I even would have made back even or what would have happened really. So, you know what I'm saying? I lost something, but I gained something, addition by subtraction, by really doing my homework, and it was just meant for me to find out this information. I'm embarrassed that I put the contract in and I look like a fool in front of the realtor, but I'm kind of happy that I didn't get the house and I got that extra time to really find out what's going on and had that hand on my shoulder, you know what I'm saying? So if you're out there and you're trying to debate like whether you should fuck with somebody who does coaching or whatever, you should maybe think about it like this. Like, you could really screw yourself over a lot worse by not having somebody on your team. Like, I would have been screwed over right now. So I'm upset, but at least we can find another house. But if I bought a house, it's harder to get out of a bad deal than find another deal. I haven't done that many deals, but it would have been hard for me. That would have been hurting me for months and months. I don't have a ton of money to just take losses like that. So I think it's addition by subtraction, and I just gotta trust the process and hope I'm gonna find something else. But man, I was hurt today about that shit, man. I knew I was gonna get one, but I'm gonna get one eventually though. But this is me checking out for real.